Hey everybody, and happy Valentine's Day. I'm up early this morning and I'm going to make Doug a devil's food cake. And I said, well, I'll just bring my friends in and show them how I do it. And what I'm going to focus on with you is how I make the icing. The icing that I use a lot on coconut cakes and other cakes, but especially on this devil's food cake, is called a boiled icing. Now, I grew up on 7-minute frosting. My mother made a 7-minute frosting, and it's just a little different to this boiled icing, but it's so similar until you really can't tell the difference. And this is so easy. For those of you who watched my divinity recipe during the Christmas holidays, then this is going to kind of remind you of that. And I would also say that if you have small children or grandchildren running around the house, it won't be a good time to make it. So you need to make it when you're by yourself or when you're in the kitchen by yourself, and you can really focus because the syrup, we're going to cook it on top of the stove and it's going to be really hot. So let me just tell you what I'm using. I went ahead and I made my cake layers, and today I'm using a cake mix. In fact, I'm using 2 cake mixes. I don't know about you, but when I use a cake mix, what I have found is that the packages are smaller and I get very small layers. So I did make 3 layers out of each cake mix, and I have 6 layers. Now, I don't know if I'll use all 6 when I put the cake together or not, but we'll see as we go along. So what I want to tell you is the ingredients that I'm going to use in the boiled icing, and then we'll make it together and then we'll ice the cake together. So for the icing, or for the syrup that we're going to cook on top of the stove, we're going to use 3 cups of white granulated sugar. I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of light corn syrup, and this is Karo syrup, light corn syrup, 1 tablespoon. And I'm going to use 1 cup of boiling water, and I have the water on the stove behind me, and it's getting hot while I'm talking to you, telling you how we're going to do this. And once I get this on the stove and get it to boiling, then I'm going to bring it to a boil, and then I'll cook it, and I'll tell you about that in just a moment. But while that's boiling, then I'm going to prepare my egg whites, and I'm going to use 3 egg whites. I'm going to beat those to a stiff peak, pour the syrup in, finish the icing, and I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of clear vanilla. Remember, I like to use clear vanilla in my white icings, and I use it in pretty much everything. So let's get started. Let's make this devil's food cake together, and let's focus on this boiled icing. Okay, we're going to make our syrup first. So we're starting out with 3 cups of white granulated sugar, and I'm just pouring it in this saucepan here. To that, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of light corn syrup. And I'm just going to use my fingers here because we need to get all of that in with our sugar. We're going to need all of it. We're just going to put that right in there. And then we're going to add 1 cup of boiling water. And we'll set that aside. Now, this is so incredibly easy. I'm just going to stir this around, and then I'm going to put it on the stove top. I'm going to bring it to a boil on medium heat, and I'm going to cook it until it spins a long thread. Or if you're one of those people who uses a thermometer, you can cook it until it's 242 degrees Fahrenheit. But I don't use a thermometer. That's amazing, but I know there are a lot of us cooks out there that don't use a thermometer, and a lot of us cooks that don't measure. But this is a recipe that I can give you the measurements, but I don't use a thermometer. But if you do, cook it to 242 degrees. So I'm going to set this on the stove and start it to boil. And then I'm going to go ahead and put our egg whites in the bowl. I've separated the egg whites from the yolk. This is 3 large eggs, and I'm using only the egg whites. So I'm just going to pour those in my mixing bowl. And when the syrup gets to a certain point, then I'll turn my mixer on and I'll beat the egg whites until they form a stiff peak. So let me go over to the stove. Let's make our syrup, and then we'll come back and we'll blend the two together. Okay, our syrup is boiling. I've turned our mixer on to beat our egg whites, and just as soon as this spins a thread, then I'm going to be pouring it into the egg whites. It's not quite ready, but it won't take long. This has been boiling for about 3 minutes, and I like to turn my egg whites or turn my mixer on to beat my egg whites once this starts boiling. So I'm going to finish working to get the syrup to the point that it needs to be, and then we'll put it together. Okay, our egg whites are stiff, and I'm going to gradually pour the syrup into the egg whites, beating constantly. And I've got my mixer on high. This is going to be so good. This is a creamy icing. If you cook it too long, of course it will sugar on you, and we don't want that. So that's why it's really important to cook it till it spins a long thread, or to 242 degrees. And mine did spin a long thread. So we're just continuing to pour it in, beating while we're pouring. And we'll set this aside and put some water in it. I want you to see this. I'm going to beat it for just a minute, and then I'm going to raise it up and let you look at it. But I'm going to kind of start pushing it down a little bit on the sides very carefully, and you'll see the texture change as it blends and mixes together. Your bowl is going to be hot, and as it mixes and together, then it'll cool, and you'll continue mixing it until the consistency is right to spread on the cake. So I'm going to stop my mixer, and I'm going to lift it up so that you can see it. It's getting ready. It's not quite ready. I think I'll go ahead and add the vanilla. We're adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And this is clear vanilla, 1 teaspoon. And I'm going to continue mixing this until it's ready to frost the cake, and then I'll come back and we'll frost it together. Okay, our frosting is ready, our boiled icing. You can see how fluffy and creamy it is. And also, if you have any left over, this is so wonderful with fresh fruit, with strawberries or kiwi or pineapple or anything of that nature. It's just so delicious. So let's frost this cake. This is the fun part. So I'm using a little turntable that I have here. I hope you can see this. It's just a little turntable that I have, and it helps me when I'm decorating and icing cakes. So I'm just using one of these little cardboard things today. I can't even remember what it's called. So I'm going to get my first cake layer. And I turn my cake layers upside down. So I'm just going to place it on this little cake ground. That's what it is. It's a cake ground. And so now I'm just going to dip some frosting on there. Just like that. And spread it out. See how this little turntable, it just works so beautifully. Just spread it around like that. Okay, now we'll add another layer. And again, I turn mine upside down. They tend to not break and seem to be more even if you do that. Just put some frosting on there. This frosting is so wonderful, and it's going to raise this cake up. So I know that I'm not going to put 6 layers on this cake. I may put 4, but we'll see. So I get a little bit more, just turning it as we go. And I hope that you can see this. Okay. We'll add another layer. This is so quick, it's so fast. That's a little flour on that one, but it's fine. Or it's icing, that's what it is. I got icing on it when I brought it over. Try to be real careful about things like that. Look at that. Oh, it's so good. Doug's gonna be so thrilled, so happy. So we're just spreading it, turning it around. For years and years, I didn't have one of these little turntables, and I'm telling you, my neck just gave me a fit because I was bending over and trying to get my cake layers even. And so finally, I found this little turntable, and I just love it. Okay, I think that I'll put one more. Let's see. Just like that. And I think this cake's going to be big enough with 4 layers. I'll freeze the other 2 layers, and then I can use them later. So I'm just icing the cake, turning it around as we go. A little bit more. This is going to be a lot of cake for me and Doug, so I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to share with my neighbors, and Pat and Charlie, they're going to love it because they love chocolate, and I do too. Okay, now I hope you can see this because I'm going to show you how I ice the sides. Start on the side right here, and I'm going to pull it toward me. Let me bring this back a little bit. I hope you can see. Get a little bit more and bring it toward me. Just like that. Making sure it's all covered. Some more icing on my spatula. Start it there and bring it toward me. This really doesn't take long to make this cake. It's so easy. It's so wonderful. it probably is taking me longer to video it and show you, probably twice as long as it would if I just jumped in here and made the cake. But I wanted to bring you in today and let you be a part of this so that you can learn how to make this wonderful boiled icing so that you and your family can enjoy it. Just bringing this on around. Just like that. We're almost finished. Whoops, about to slide it off here. I think we probably all had an accident with our cooking at some time or another. We slid it off or dropped it or something, but that's a terrible thing to happen. Okay. Okay. I am just about all done. There's a little spot right there that I missed. I'm going to get that. And then we are all done. There's our devil's food cake. It's just going to be wonderful. And you know what? I'm going to top it. It looks like it might be a little lopsided, but I'll just kind of turn it like that and it'll be all right. So there you go. I'm going to top it with a strawberry. How about that? There you go. Devil's food cake in just a short period of time. So now I'll be back in just a minute. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen today. I've had fun making this cake, devil's food cake with boiled icing. I hope that you'll try it real soon. I hope that you'll share it with your friends. And again, I want to wish you a very, very happy Valentine's Day.